Gentlemen, how are we doing today? Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving.
Same to you, sir. Hope it was a good Thanksgiving for you. I know it was not a good Thanksgiving for Trevor Lawrence, who got his bell rung there in that game with the Houston Texans. A lot has been made about sliding. I know Tom Brady's weighed in on it. A lot of guys weighing in on this. Where do you stand, Adam, on the suspension? We know it's getting appealed. Is this something that you think is going to be a big fundamental change, one of these things that starts getting emphasized next season and is looking very different in the future? Do you think that that's coming up here with the slides?
I don't see the league's emphasis on trying to protect quarterbacks changing. So they're not going to give the benefit of the doubt to defensive players. They're going to continue to side to protecting quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are currency. Quarterbacks bring ratings. And there have been too many owners who have said in the past that when the quarterbacks go down and teams are compromised and the ratings suffer, and when the ratings suffer, then the bottom line suffers. And so the league is going to do what it can, I believe, to always protect quarterbacks. So I don't see like they're going to say, oh, you can't slide or you have to slide sooner or declare, whatever rule they want to put into that is not going to change the fact that quarterbacks are going to be offered rightfully in this day and age as much protection as they can get.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I think we talked to you, Adam, the week that Bryce Young was benched, and you said you thought he might have played his last game in Carolina. Now, a lot has happened since then. He's gotten back on the field. He had his little rest, and now he looks pretty good. Has he changed maybe the plan for his future in Carolina with the way he's played lately?
I think it's a really interesting question. I think at that time I said if you went and looked at it, maybe that was Richardson, they blend together. Quarterbacks picked that high, first-round picks who are benched, typically have not gone on to thrive with those respective teams.
Right.
That has been the overwhelming history. Bryce Young has played well the last couple of weeks, and he looks like a little bit of a different quarterback, and that's great. It's encouraging to see, and I think that they hope he could continue that. And I think it was in their mind, okay, we've got to go get a quarterback, and I think now the remaining weeks of this season are going to be used as a little bit an audition. Hey, did we find what we initially thought we had in this guy to where we think we could stick with him and not have to go draft a quarterback this offseason or not have to use a high pick on a quarterback this season? So I think he's begun to change the narrative, and now let's see if he can continue to change the narrative for the remainder of the season.
Schefter, one thing that's keeping us Patriots fans warm at night here is the fact that the New York Jets basically have the same record, and they have it while having much higher expectations than, obviously, the Patriots have. What's going on with Aaron Rodgers? What do you think his future is going to be there in New York? Is he going to finish this season, and is he going to play the rest of these games, and what do you think happens with him next year?
Well, I think that he and the Jets each have to make a decision, and I think that each of their decisions probably will not involve the other, would be my initial guess. The Jets are going to have a new GM, a new head coach. I don't know that the new GM and new head coach are going to have any ties or allegiance to Aaron Rodgers. And if they don't, I don't know that they're going to want to start to build their program around a 41-year-old quarterback with a stronger personality. So there's that element. And then there's the element of him being 41 and does he want to even go play there next year for a new GM and a new coach? And I don't know that he will. I would think that he'd want to be with somebody that he's comfortable with, if he even wants to play. So, I mean, there are so many questions that have to be answered there that it's just logical and common sense to think that the chances are he's not going to be there. Now, let's see how it all plays out. Let's see who's hired as the GM and the head coach. Let's see what he decides. But there are a whole lot of variables that would have to fall into place for him to be there again next year. Not to say it can't happen. It always could. But, again, there's a lot that would have to happen to make that happen.
The Patriots unveiled sort of the photos or whatever of a new training facility today that they're building in Foxborough. I'm wondering, coming off of a couple years of bad NFLPA surveys, this seems obviously like a bit of a reaction to that, but does something like this matter for a team that's about to go out with $100 and whatever million in free agency spending this offseason? Does this help recruit players, or is it really just all about the money and this is sort of very much secondary to that?
Well, I think when is the new complex supposed to be completed by?
That's a good question, Adam.
Do we know?
26, so a year
next
plus.
Year. Yeah. Well, my guess would be that free agents in 25. Well, so that thing is not going to be open for the 25 season,
no,
right?
No.
That's the assumption that we're making here. I'm going to guess that free agents in 25 aren't going to say, well, I'm going to go to New England because they're opening a new training facility in 26. Like, I don't think that's going to matter very much.
Okay.
Now, when free agency rolls around in 26 and this new facility is open and they have a guy that's coming to town to visit, and that guy's also considering 2 or 3 other teams, and they walk him in and they say, hey, this is where it would be, and the money's similar, if he wants to be there, something like that, I think could have an influence and could matter. Is it going to matter in this upcoming free agent class? No, I don't believe it will. Could it help sway a particular person's decision in 26 if and when they get him in on a visit and they see how beautiful it is, which I'm sure it's going to be state of the art? You know, hey, this is not a bad place to have to spend my season and work out during the day and whatnot. So, yeah, I think that could make a little bit of a difference, but it's not going to be like, wow, I know that I'm being offered $10 million with the Jets and $9 million with the Patriots, and I could train here at this facility. That's not going to do it. Like, is the money being comparable? Yes, that could be a tiebreaker.
Speaking of the Patriots and where their money comes from, this is old news now, Adam, but we didn't get to talk to you about it, I think, because we were too busy asking you about your sex life 2 weeks ago. But Robert Kraft passed over once again for the Hall of Fame. I know this is something you feel very strongly about, that he should be in. I guess at this point the question is he ever going to get in? If he can't get in over Ralph Hay, is he ever going to get in?
Yeah, he's going to get in. I believe he's going to get in. And I believe that, I mean, you know, I was on the phone this morning with an executive on another team, and that this actual topic came up, and he brought up Robert Kraft, and we discussed it. First of all, we're talking about as much of a dynasty as there's been in football. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he not the owner of the team that had that dynasty? He was. Has he not been incredibly influential with how the league has done its broadcast deals and the way games are yes, he has. Did he not spearhead an effort to completely revitalize that Foxborough area that was defunct until he owned the team? Yes, he has. Is he not? I mean, what are we talking about here? Like, it's absurd. So let's make him just keep
Adam,
waiting.
I agree with you. I mean, listen, I agree with everything you're saying here, but if they're going to put Ralph Hay in ahead of him, aren't they just going to find someone else more popular than Ralph Hay every year? I mean, right? Can't they beat Ralph Hay every year if they can beat Robert Kraft?
Yeah, I know people were knocking down the doors to get Ralph Hay in. I know there have been
80 years of it.
Support for Ralph Hay. Yeah, Ralph. You know, and that's what I was thinking. Ralph Hay's time has come.
Right.
Yeah, it was in the forefront of all of our minds. All right, well, there you go. Adam Schefter, ESPN. Thanks so much for the time today. We always love talking with you.
Thanks, Adam.
Have a great week. We'll talk next week.
All right.